In the ancient Persian Empire, there was a powerful king named Xerxes. One day, after a grand feast, he decided to banish his queen, Vashti, for not obeying his command. So he needed a new queen. To find one, he held a beauty contest across the whole kingdom. Among all the women who were brought to the palace was a young Jewish woman named Esther. She was kind, beautiful, and wise. The king liked her so much that he made her queen. But there was one thing Esther kept secret. She was Jewish, and the Jewish people were not liked in Persia. Meanwhile, there was a man named Haman, who became the king's right-hand man. Haman was arrogant and wanted everyone to bow to him, but one man, Mordecai, Esther's cousin, refused to bow. Haman was furious. In his anger, he decided to not only punish Mordecai but also destroy all the Jews in the kingdom. He convinced King Xerxes to issue a decree to have all Jews killed on a certain day. The whole Jewish community was in fear and shock. Mordecai, hearing about the decree, went to Esther and begged her to speak to the king on behalf of the Jewish people. But Esther was afraid. She knew that anyone who went to the king without being invited could be put to death, even the queen. Maybe you became queen for just this moment, to save your people. After thinking about it, Esther made a bold decision. She told Mordecai to gather the Jews and fast for 3 days. Then, she would go to the king, even if it meant risking her life. Esther dressed in her royal clothes and went to the king's palace. When King Xerxes saw her, he was pleased, and held out his golden scepter to her. This meant she was welcome. King Xerxes asked, "What do you want, Esther? I'll give you anything, up to half my kingdom." Instead of immediately asking for the lives of her people, Esther invited the king and Haman to a special banquet she had prepared. The king agreed, curious about what she wanted. At the banquet, Esther invited them to another feast the next day. Meanwhile, Haman, thinking he was honored to be with the king and queen, grew more furious at Mordecai for not bowing to him. He even had gallows built to hang Mordecai. But that night, the king couldn't sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read to him. That's when he remembered how Mordecai had once saved his life from an assassination plot. The answer was nothing, so the king decided to honor Mordecai the next day. The next day, at the second banquet, Esther finally told the king that she was Jewish, and that Haman had planned to destroy her people. She pleaded for the king to save them. The king was furious. He turned to Haman and said, "King Xerxes, what have you done?" The king ordered Haman to be hanged on the very gallows Haman had built for Mordecai. After Haman was gone, Mordecai was promoted, and the king issued a new decree that allowed the Jews to defend themselves. On the day that had been set for their destruction, the Jews fought back and were saved. They celebrated, and a new holiday was born, Purim, a time to remember how Esther's bravery saved their lives. Esther's story is one of courage, faith, and standing up for what's right, even when it's scary. She showed that sometimes we are placed in positions to make a difference in the world. She didn't just save her people, she became a symbol of hope and courage for everyone. And that's the story of Esther.